Thanks so much for tuning in to Respect Her Game. If you're enjoying this show, be sure to check out Nesson's daily sports podcast, Boston Has Entered the Chat. You can listen on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to your podcasts. What is up? I am Annabelle Hasselbeck here with Kasey Hudson once again on Respect Her Game. We're so excited to have an awesome show for you guys today. We've got a little bit of everything. We got some NWSL updates, a very special guest. I'm going to be biased, my favorite person in the entire world down the street at Chestnut Hill. And some college hoops preview for you guys. And if we get to it, we'll get to our girl on fire. But first, Kasey, how was your weekend?
It was good. It was preparing for the week ahead. It's a birthday week for me, so I've got family flying in.
Exciting. When is your birthday?
On Wednesday, March 5th.
Oh, let's go.
Is the 33rd. So my parents are flying in. Their first time visiting Boston because my sister's the one who helped me get moved in and situated up here. So it's been fun. It's been different. Some of my friends started shipping gifts up, which is nice.
Lovely.
And they made me promise I wouldn't open it until Wednesday. So it feels like Christmas all over again as a child, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Well, 33 being in Boston, that's like the kind of golden year I feel like for you here with the Celtics, Larry Bird. It's kind of a fun number to turn. But I love asking people for their birthdays, what's like your go-to birthday dessert or treat that you always like to have?
Oh, see, that's a hard one because I'm like always like love a chocolate chip cookie, just a simple chocolate chip cookie. But my mom got me really big on tiramisu over the years.
Okay.
So that's just kind of turned into like the thing for the past couple of birthdays. So we'll see which one it ends up being. We're going to Contessa for dinner.
I have never been to Contessa. I've wanted to go so bad. Have you been before, or will this be the first time?
No, that was just the direction that everybody pointed me
into.
I
would have pointed you there, and I've never even been. So you'll need to tell me how that is. I'm super excited. And I feel like the chocolate chip cookie was a great example because it's just so classic, so easy. You could get it really anywhere. So, well, happy early birthday.
Thank you so much.
That's so exciting.
How was your weekend, though? You were up to some stuff again.
And my weekend was very fun. I will say this was a big weekend for me. I ran my first half marathon. It might be my first and my last half marathon, but I got to do it with a few of my college friends down in Hyannisport. And it was very windy down by the ocean, but I will say I would not have made it if I wasn't running with my friend Emily Sapienza, who played soccer at Boston College. Man, those girls can run.
Yes.
They can run fast. So it was definitely a little bit over my pace, but I'm glad I did it. I had an amazing support team. My cousin and her fiance came in. My little sister Mallory, who we'll have on the show in a little bit here, she drove on her one off day all the way to the Cape to come see me, and my parents were there. So felt the support, and you really don't, like when you go watch people run races and they have those, those funny signs. I've never thought anything about it. I've always just been like, oh, you know what? Like that's just a
cool
funny sign.
Yeah.
While I was running, I remember like audibly laughing at some of these signs, and it was like helping me. So thank you to everyone who took the time to make signs to cheer on the runners, because it actually did help.
It does. It gives you a little extra boost, extra pep in your step, especially because like depending on what your running rhythm is, I know for me, especially for soccer, my best friend who I played soccer with, she also ran cross country. I was not signing up for that.
No.
So 10, 15 miles was nothing for her, whereas like for me, I was like, I'm steady Eddie in this 6 to 8 mile club, and we both played midfield. But she gave me a little tip to put a song at a certain rhythm on repeat, and even though you think it would drive you crazy, that rhythm just carries you on, and you just go tunnel vision, you go numb to everything else. But then those signs are just like, look at what I'm doing.
Definitely.
You have a look at what I'm accomplishing moment. So did the runner's high hit you?
Honestly, I don't know, because I was so numb the whole time, but I definitely will say I had a shoulder cramp like from miles 1 to 8, and after mile 8 it was gone. I know, it was the worst part was I was like complaining about my shoulder cramp, and my friend who I was running with had just had shoulder surgery, so I was like, you know what, I gotta like shut my mouth and like relax. But I definitely think the runner's high came in after that, once I could get over the cramp.
Yeah.
Once you hit like 10, then I'm like, you know what? Like, it is so close. I just got to make it. And the funny part of this is I was running alongside my cousin's fiance, and I was like throwing him one of my coats. He was handing us Honey Stinger waffles. And I said, Drew, do you have a tip for me? Like, you got anything? He goes, honestly, the faster you get it done, the faster you're done. So just go. And I was like, yep, you're not wrong. That's great advice.
It's true. In that moment, I don't know if that would have hit me as hard though. I have to pick up my pace. That would have psychologically got me for a second. But between the snacks and the straws and everything else, it just it's an entire process in production. So definitely something to be super proud of.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you asking, and it was definitely very fun. So maybe we'll have to do not only our intramurals together, but maybe we'll do a half marathon, maybe a 5K. We'll start with like the turkey trot.
Okay, thank you.
In November. I would love that. But I know some women who would definitely be amazing at a half marathon or a turkey trot is the NWSL.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd love to talk about some women's soccer because there's some fun news this week. All 14 teams will be debuting at least one new jersey in this season. The league is partnering with Nike for the second year in a row. The goalkeepers will also have some updated uniforms, so this is going to be super exciting. And it's actually the first time that the NWSL's online shop will include full customization for the first time ever. Kasey, what's your initial reaction when you look at this new lineup of uniforms?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I love it. There's so many great options, but I'll tell you as a former soccer player, there's nothing we love more than a new kit. I mean, they used to joke around and say growing up, like, yeah, you love what you do, but you pay for the uniform that you get to play in. So they look really sharp. There's a number of really quality ones in the mix there, but I also love the excitement around the launch of it and the accessibility for fans to get more involved. I mean, there were so many great storylines for the NWSL over the past 2 seasons, and then especially the Washington Spirit being a team female minority owned and stuff. So now having the accessibility to draw the fans in even more, and they showed up this previous season. I think I'm super excited about that. But did anything stand out for you with all of those?
No,
picks?
I totally agree, and I would love to just comment on what you said about like the hype, the leading up to it, because maybe with some sports, like some pro, men's sports, you don't need that huge jersey release. Like maybe it'll be a tweet and that's about it.
Right.
But for these other leagues that are really, seeing exponential growth every single year in viewerships, it adds to just the excitement of it. And I think what's super fun is like these are colors that we don't typically see in like, iconic long-term sports,
Right.
professional sports teams. And so I love seeing that neon pink and the teal blues and the yellows and the green and just the creativity too that goes behind it. Like you can imagine just looking at the detail on some of these jerseys, the intricacies of like the quotes or the thought process behind them. So I think for me, just knowing like the anticipation that goes up to this, and the season is coming up, but my favorite jersey was the San Diego Wave FC. I loved their like water marble look that they had. It was teal and blue, and then they had that neon pink, and anything with pink I'm like automatically gonna love. But I do love when the team is able to really bring in like the geography with the wave, being near the ocean, just kind of encapsulate that whole vibe of really the location. And this might be a silly example, but growing up in Seattle, anything that had to do with like literally the rainy weather in Seattle just like gave you a little more pride for that area. And so I think anytime that the logos, the gear, even the colors can represent the area that those people and those fans live in, it just gets you a little more excited about the team.
Oh, yes. I love that one, especially because it also, I mean, as a girl from Florida, the waves and everything, that draws to me as well. But my dad's over on the West Coast, so he'd be so mad that I used the Florida reference for the waves. Loved that pick a lot. I had to go with the Washington Spirit, as I just mentioned beforehand, because I'm thinking for like Washington State, of course you're considering green being like one of the draw colors of this. But I'm dying because I love that they went with lime green. Lime green with the navy accent. It just helps have that color block, that contrast. But nothing was sharper for me. I want to say back in my day, back in the day than that lime green. Now, when I was playing soccer, we used to actually buy and beg our parents for neon tape, and that's what we would use to tape our shin guards. So I had rolls,
sock.
Yeah, I had rolls and rolls and rolls of either neon green tape or hot pink tape, depending on who our opponent was and what kit we were wearing that day. But then outside of my own soccer experience, my bedroom was lime green with accents of pink and navy blue.
No way.
Yes.
Lime green walls?
Legit painted my walls lime green. It was a surprise for my parents when they came home one day.
You did it?
Yes, I did.
Oh my goodness.
I just I was a freak about it. But growing up,
That's incredible.
Surfing was big. I played soccer and stuff. So like I just wanted anything that like gave me that draw. So of course, as soon as the lineup came out and I saw lime green, it was a wrap for me. So Washington, not only with the season they have one of my favorite midfielders midfielders as well. And then you put this neon green jersey. I was just like, I need it. I have to have it. And I'm obsessed with it.
I love that. Well, this team, it's fitting, right? Because this team was in the finals last year. They're one of the best teams in the league. And so I feel like to be one of those best teams, it's kind of fun to have one of those really bold colors. And lime green, neon green was a color that I had a lot in my Boston College lacrosse experience. It was kind of like our playoff color. It was, we really didn't wear it or have it too much on our sticks or on our shooting shirts until we got into the playoffs. And it was kind of like this moment of power because of, years that they had. Really, the first time they went to the national championship game, our head coach wanted to be able to see the fans and the parents in the stands. And it's a huge stadium. It's a football stadium. So she put everyone in neon shirts, and it just kind of stuck, and it became the thing. And so neon has always been, or that lime green yellow.
The confident color.
Yes, the confident color. Except I will say the one problem with it is that I became trained to like anything I saw that was neon, I needed it. I was like, oh, well, I need that. That's a neon jacket, or that's a neon water bottle, or a neon bracelet. Like anything, I just felt the need that like I needed it. And then I graduated, and I remember shopping one day and like going through the clothes and saying, oh, neon. I'm like, wait, I don't need it just because it's neon. So definitely can relate to you on that. But I did paint my walls watermelon pink, which ended up being like a brown. So it didn't really go that well. But
We're not supposed to be painting things ourselves.
No, not us. But other fun and exciting things going on in the NWSL. It's kicking off very soon, in less than 2 weeks, on March 14th, and the new Bay FC team will take on their second season in this league, which is so exciting because just your inaugural season, you're really just getting your feet under you. You're really getting that fan base going. You're really trying to figure out all the little things. And so I'm excited to see how this team handles their second season. And they're the only club to refresh both the primary and secondary kits for the 2025 season. So they have a little extra boost of the little things that they're going to get. And also very soon, we're going to see the Challenge Cup, which is on March 7th, the rematch of the Orlando Pride and Washington Spirit, and just like the excitement that brings, having the two teams that were in the final last year to really kick off the season. What are you most excited for, and what do you like about just having that kind of a rematch?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, so many exciting things that you mentioned there. I'll start with the Bay FC because, like you said, they're going into their second season, and I think that it's really hard to be a brand new team in sort of a newer league per se, or a league that's getting a lot more attention, and to perform and do well. So what Bay FC did really well was the construction of their roster. I think they did good at bringing back some hometown gals that started to really amp up that fan base. But it's also some of the signings that they've done in January to continue to beef up their roster. To have your first season in the NWSL and to go above middle of the pack, ranking 7th, closing out the season. They were pretty competitive. You could tell that they were still trying to find their identity a little bit. Now, the soccer nerd in me, of course, was like asking my best friend what she made of some of these teams and how they've resulted. And she made a good point about Bay FC, talking about the fact that they're still finding their identity. They started off last year kind of going with what we call a very unique format in soccer of a 4-3-3. You have to be very versatile for that. You have to have like the most commanding midfielder on your roster. So they kind of came out the gate with a lot of gusto and high hopes, and then they made some adjustments. They went to kind of your more typical 4-4-2 format, and that's when they really started to compete. So I'm excited to see what they can pick from that they did so well year one, carry that into year two, and then add to it. 2 new faces that got signed. You got Carly Lima, you got Taylor Huff. Taylor Huff actually had some time over at FSU. Go Knowles for that. But they got 2 really great versatile players that's going to add to the caliber of that team. I talk about the Bay FC team because they're going to present a challenge, and you've got the Orlando Pride and the Washington Spirit, who
they're coming up. Everybody, they're coming up.
Everyone's looking at what's going to go on. I mean, first of all, the championship, 1 goal. And the Pride have the best scorer, if not one of the best scorers in the NWSL on their roster in Banda. And she's going to be hard to compete against. But what I love about this Washington Spirit team, they're very young. And they lost my favorite midfielder in September. I don't know if you saw any of the stuff about the pitch gone wrong. She threw out the pitch for the Washington Nationals game and tore her meniscus.
Oh, no.
So talk about those outside activities that can cost you in the season. And you're talking about one of the most brilliant, high soccer IQ, confident females out there, and kind of one of the pulses of the Washington Spirit. Well, you lose her in September, and then you got to keep competing. You make it to a final anyway. So I'm not sure on her track back. But all this to say that, like, the team is getting healthier for the Spirit. There were some key re-signings for the Pride, but this is going to be a battle come the Challenge Cup to see, all right, it's going to set a tone because both of these teams want to be back in the championship come November.
Definitely. And that was the last taste that the Spirit had in their mouth, right? Losing to the Pride and then getting to see their victory parade and all the things and the new star that will be on their jersey, right? Added to that. That's just a little, like, as you're getting close to someone guarding them up. And I noticed that new decal on your jersey. But hey, just with the injuries too in the offseason, hey, that's like why you're not allowed to play intramurals as a college athlete. So it all makes sense even on the pro level. But I did love how you just brought up some of the moves and shakes that just within those teams, but also some key faces that we won't be seeing in the NWSL is one of my favorite players of all time, Alex Morgan, and Kelly O'Hara. And, you know, Alex played for Portland, Orlando, and San Diego. O'Hara, Sky Blue, Utah Royals, Washington Spirit, and Gotham SC. So these women have, you know, been a part of the league since the inaugural season, I think back in 2013. They've kind of been the face, too, of this league. And so it is going to be really different not to see them and get to, you know, just sharing that experience with everyone of, you know, letting them take on this league and be really the leaders of it.
Oh my gosh, big time. I mean, I got chills when you mentioned Alex Morgan because, first of all, I mean, college, you know this probably better than anyone. It's it's impossible to get your number. Whatever that number is that you were just like drawn to as a kid, you have to be ready to give it up unless you are like the number one prospect. So at least for my soccer club back in Tampa, I was able to shift between 13 and 7. But I mean, I fought for 13 hands down. And a lot of that was because of the pride of everything that Alex Morgan did for the sport of soccer. I even got 13 tattooed on my body. So
Alex,
loved her.
Listen
I loved
here.
her. But it is going to be strange because she was a leader on the field, a leader off the field. She was a big voice and advocate for how soccer has grown. I mean, I think I mentioned it here on Respect Her Game beforehand. When I was playing soccer coming up in high school, getting ready to look at colleges and see which direction I wanted to go in, I mean, the thought of actually having a professional opportunity was still very far off, you know, and I also grew up around the era of like Ham and having her jersey in my room. So to see what she did for the game and then to see that she's no longer a part of it. I mean, I cried when she did her retirement speech. And like,
it was so emotional. I think everybody on the field and watching on TV was crying.
Yes. And I mean, everyone that she's played with forever who still feel like they have 2, 3, 4, 5 years left in them. I mean, they were so emotional. Cindy Lou is probably one of my other top favorite forwards or soccer players, period. But she's so dynamic. But so is Alex Morgan. So it's going to be very strange. I know we've had a couple of games without her in the mix, but like to fully start a season and like her presence not to be out there, but she had high praises because she got to speak during the championship game. She had high praises for the veteran presence over for the Orlando Pride, but the young girls who are going to continue to change the game on that Spirit roster and even Chicago's roster, like she was just saying how what she did is going to be built off of, and she feels like her legacy is going to continue to thrive and be amplified because of the players in the game now.
Definitely. And even just watching her bring her daughter to her games and walking up with their matching walk-up fits too, I think that just shows, and at least showed me too, as someone who's not playing professional women's sports, like, wow, how hard it must be to be a mom and be a professional athlete at the same time. But what's so cool is she took her opportunity and her abilities and she was like, I'm going to do it, right? And I just absolutely love that. And especially even coming back after having her daughter. And I think that's a huge part of this too. There are other ways to, you know, lead on the field for your team and just the league as a whole. But for Alex, I think going through her entire career and really laying it all on the line in ways, you know, beyond the soccer field is going to show, you know, these young girls coming out of college, hey, you can do this for a long time and you can also have a life outside of soccer and really integrate it into your career.
Yeah, and more importantly enough, especially for like a lot of us females, like you can become a mom and still do this too. That's very hard because sometimes becoming a mom becomes your entire identity. And I have a couple friends with kids and stuff, and I know what that struggle is, you know, to want to be full-time and hands-on, but also kind of have your space and your pace as well. So she has just been a tremendous vision in terms of like going after her dream, accomplishing her dream, being such a role model for others, and oh, by the way, bringing her kids into it and letting them see that she's just been such an outstanding role model for not only her new babies, but for any other woman in female sports as a whole.
Definitely. You just hyped me up. I feel like I'm Alex Morgan.
I'm telling you, I loved it. I loved everything about her game, her play, and it's going to be weird to not have her in the mix, that's for sure.
So good. Well, you can stream the entire Sox season with a Nessun 360 annual plan available at all new reduced price of just $20 a month paid annually. And for a limited time, get 4 free tickets to Fenway with your purchase. Visit Nessun360.com to sign up today. It is my honor to welcome on 2024 national champion, senior captain, number 2, my beautiful sister, Mallory Hasselbeck. Mallory, welcome to Respect Her Game.
Thank you. I'm fired up. I feel like I've just been your biggest fan since this has all begun. So I'm so excited to have the honor to come on.
Well, you have definitely been our biggest fan, so I appreciate you. But we want to get right to your season and what BC Lacrosse has going on right now. You guys just got back from a huge win over a good ACC team in Virginia Tech. You guys beat them 21-5. How did you guys beat such a good ACC team on the road that well?
Yeah, I think any ACC team and game really is up for grabs for anyone. And I think something we pride ourselves on here at BC is just our preparation. So our coaches prepare us well, our scout teams prepare us well, and just going against each other, being the best defenders, best attackers in the country, gives us some confidence when we show up on game day. So thankfully we got the W and can move on to Dartmouth this week.
Well, Mallory, it wasn't just a normal ACC game for you specifically. This was your first time back on the field in almost over 2 years, coming off a redshirt year and an ACL recovery. So just for you, how did that feel to get back on the turf?
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal. It was something I'll never forget, seeing my teammates. Some girls didn't even realize I was in because I ran in right after we got the draw. So it was definitely surreal and so fun, and just to have my teammates be so fired up for me was definitely a moment I'll never forget, and a long time coming, but hopefully a lot more to come.
What was that process like for you, getting ready to get prepared and just dive back in? I mean, you mentioned beforehand, BC, strong offensively, strong defensively, so sometimes there was that pressure to come in and be versatile right off the bat there, but how'd you manage getting prepared for it?
Yeah, I think what I said earlier, like practice prepares us better than games, just because our practices, especially this year, we've decided to make practice so intense where we show up to game day, and not that it's easy because it's never easy, but that we're prepared and we're ready to go, and we have confidence that our preparation prepared us for any task at hand. So yeah, definitely getting the opportunities to ease in throughout practice and get reps that way and make mistakes and learn from them definitely made stepping on the field a lot easier.
Mallory, you mentioned practice being so intense, and I know because I was on the team for 4 years, so I know the intensity that you're talking about. But for people who don't know, can you just let them into what a day or maybe just the off-season ramp-up looked like this year for Boston College women's lacrosse? Because I know when you were telling me, oh, we're doing this in preseason, we're doing this in the summer, we're doing this, and during winter break before coming back, it was even a lot more than I had even experienced the prior year. And it seems like every year BC Lacrosse has just ramped it up. So can you just explain a little bit of what really goes into the intensity during training?
Yeah, I mean, just like any college athlete training, you try to put your best foot forward every single day. And if you're going to do a workout, you might as well give it everything you have. Otherwise, we consider that a lost workout. So just pushing ourselves, and whether it was over break, staying in touch with the girls on the team, having an accountability partner, texting each other like, hey, how'd the run go today? Or, hey, what do you need from me? Do you need a motivational text? Do you need a pump up speech? Do you need a little hey, let's go? You need to step it up. So just that in the off season, then showing up this winter break, coming back from break, everyone just was ready to chase our goals. We're trying to do something that Boston College Lacrosse has never done before, win 2 back-to-back national championships. So I had that opportunity as a freshman. Annabelle had just won the national championship for freshman year. It was such a cool experience. And I got to be a part of the team that was trying to go back-to-back. And we sadly fell short by 1 goal in the national championship game that year. So just for this senior class to know what that feels like and trying to chase that this year, is definitely a driving force that drives us in everything we do, whether it's partner passing. We're not keeping our feet still. We're moving our feet, being intense with it, acting like we're making the pass in the national championship game, even if it is the first 5 minutes of practice.
Yeah, clearly those practices are paying off because, like you just said, you guys are trying to go back-to-back as national champs. But what's that like, being a part of a national championship caliber team? I mean, what was the experience from your first year to now, and knowing the capability is right there?
Yeah, I think it's such a cool experience. I mean, we watch other sports and you're like, wow, that's so cool that they're in the national championship. And I don't think it really hits you it didn't hit me till freshman year we were at the national championship and the national anthem played, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm playing in the national championship game. And so, thankfully our team's been fortunate to go back the last couple years and make a run at it and win it this last year. But yeah, I think it definitely ups the ante and makes every team's game. Like, you have a schedule and every team circles your team on the schedule. So there's no games off. There's no easy matchups because everyone's going to give you their best game. But I think the cool thing about going to BC is that every girl on our team came here because they want everyone's best game. And that's why you play in the ACC, and that's why you come to Boston College, is to get everyone's best game and compete for a national championship.
Mallory, you mentioned it. You guys have a huge target on your back. And like you said, every team circles BC lacrosse on their schedule. But that is noise, right? And so how does this 2025 team block that noise out? Because you do think about it. You do prepare the same and respect every opponent. I'm going to smile because I know that's a saying that gets thrown around in the locker room a lot. But what does that actually really look like?
Yeah, I think our coaches really preach it to us, and we end up believing it. Like, it doesn't matter if we're winning by 10, we're still putting out the same BC lacrosse product as if it's a nail biter game. So I think just having that mindset going into everything, going into practice, going into game weeks, whether it's a tournament play, whether it's a regular season game, a non-conference game, just treating it, we're not playing another team to play another team just to beat them. We're playing to seek excellence. That's kind of our theme this year, is we're seeking excellence. Not being perfect, but seeking excellence, trying to stay humble, hungry, and just playing together where we keep the BC product safe and we keep pushing it to the best possible way that it can become.
I like you pointing out the emphasis on excellence, and Annabelle just mentioned the fact of things that just kind of were sayings in the locker room for you guys. What's kind of something that's motivating this group right now, especially probably when it comes to those big game days, maybe for teams that you guys are circling on the calendar?
Yeah, I think something I've talked to Annabelle about a couple times is that this, when we got back from break, I kind of started something, our team started something called, we have a BC bank. And it's just this little plastic thing I got off of Amazon, put a BC logo on it. And every day, whether if it's a hard day and we worked hard and we got better, or after a big win, or after someone had an amazing practice, we put money in the bank. Because you can't get returns without deposits. And so then when we need that money in the bank, we need to reach into that bank account and, say, hey, we practiced that at practice. Or, hey, that dodge. You can beat that girl because you did this. We've been putting money in the bank, and something that we've been kind of fires the girls up. Annabelle got us some fun glasses. We played I just got paid, or bills. Everyone does a little dance. So we have fun with it. But, yeah, it's definitely something that gets the girls going.
Hey, there's that seesaw in Boston College Business School knowledge. Good job, Mallory. It's funny, when I was applying to BC, my parents said, oh, you want to do arts and sciences. You want to do arts and sciences. I said, well, all my friends are telling me I should do the business school. And then when Mallory applies, they're like, oh, Mallory, you got to do the business school. You got to do the business school. So you were definitely called to do the business school, and for this specific reason, too, so you can drop that knowledge on everyone. But Mallory, just to get a little more inside the Boston College women's lacrosse locker room, are there any fun traditions or maybe team games that you guys have really had fun with this season?
Yeah, so our team has a ton of traditions. They're just fun things we do before the game. We have the classic. We play Ship It Up to Boston, and two of our girls, Emily English and Abby Harrod, do a little dance like Ship It Up to Boston, and they do a little Irish step dance in the middle, and then everyone jumps in and does the dance with them. So that's definitely before we go out in the locker room. And then, yeah, I think just our team's very energetic this year, loves to dance, loves to be silly and have fun. So we definitely have a dance party before the coaches come in, which makes it all better. And I sometimes now I get tired and I'm like, shoot, I have to play in the game. I need to save myself. I find myself sweating, not even in warm-ups, in the dance party. So I guess that you could say it's a fun pregame warm up, but yeah.
To say the least. I mean, sounds like my kind of warm up, honestly. My family had a thing where when you're having a weird day, you put on music and do an ugly dance party. My brother hated it. The girls bought into it a little too hard. What are some of these songs for the dance party? I must know. I'm always a song person.
We have it all. There's this new song. I tried to show it to Annabelle. She didn't know. It's called Shake and Pop. It's that our team loves. We just stand in the circle and it's shake and pop, woo, and then it
girl, I know that song. My seniors when I was a freshman invented that song. I was like, did you download I'm kidding.
It?
It's all good. No, you brought it back. That's the right thing.
But yeah, that's definitely a fan favorite for sure.
I love that. Well, it is so fun, and you can tell just the joy that comes out of that team from the locker room. It's because of all those, close bonds you guys have within it that really carry out onto the field. But just to go back to this intensity, right? Because you guys are all fun and games, and you like to have dance parties and have fun songs, and Emily English in the middle of the circle doing the Irish step dance, right? But this team is also very serious. And so I know there's a lot of things that go on the day-to-day for BC Women's Lacrosse, but as one of the captains on this team, is there something that you can pinpoint and say, man, this is a part of BC Women's Lacrosse that just goes above and beyond, and it's really attributes to our success?
Yeah, I think it's just like our practice block is 1 to 4, 1 to 4:30. But I don't think that's when lacrosse ends. I think that's just the time that we get physically in our calendar. But I think something about this team, especially this year, is people leave practice and are still talking about one play that happened. Like, hey, how can we be better on that? Or sending each other clips of practice, just practice, not even in the games. Or like we're playing an opponent and someone's like, hey, I watched this random game 3 years ago where this girl did this against them. Like, I think we can try this. So I think just the hunger and the passion for the game that this team has, knowing what our goals are, just really sticks out to me this year. And it's something special and something that I'm so lucky to be a part of. And it pushes me to get on my huddle and learn some and send some clips and then talk about it and text about it and maybe get lunch and talk about, hey, what do you think about this two-man? Which is just so simple, but it's definitely makes it a lot of fun to be a student of the game.
Oh, I love that. And plus, congratulations, because getting a captainship in college is honestly such an honor and not even an easy feat. So that's a big one that you should be plenty proud of. But I kind of see that you've had to face some adversity when it comes to overcoming injuries in your career. Is there anything from that journey that you pull into being a captain or that you use to voice for your team to keep their head in things? Or as you mentioned, lacrosse doesn't just end with practice, it's in all other aspects. So does your personal journey pull through in your way of leading the team?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. I think just the way that I've had to learn how to lead when I was injured or just be a part of the team is different than it was how I would expect it to be. It's a different type of leadership when you're on the field and you have the ball at the end of the game. You're like, hey guys, give me the ball. I'm going to do this for our team and I'm going to help lead the offense into that. Where a different leadership where you have to stay on the sideline. You're like, how do I lead? How do I help the team? Like, how do I make an impact? So I definitely learned a lot about myself and how to still be a leader and still be a part of the team being injured. And I think something that really got me through just all the injuries. I've had 4 knee surgeries, so definitely wouldn't say I'm a rookie. I would have this phrase, roads change, but goals don't. And I think that can apply to anything in life, whether, we might have a tough game this season that might veer us off. We might not stick to our game plan the way we need to, but that's not changing our goals. And you might have a tough practice. That's not changing your goals. So I think, or you might be injured and you're like, man, like I really wish I was that starter, but I got injured. That doesn't change your goals. It just puts a little veer in your path. So I think just embodying that every single day when we do face hard times, because we know it's inevitable in sports, that just kind of facing it head on and still keeping our eyes on what's the most important thing.
Mallory, when you're on that sideline, right, and you can't play and you have multiple seasons, right, stringing along of just wanting to get out there, how do you stay keen and still lock in at practice and really learn, right? You don't want to get worse while you're out. You actually want to get better, even if it's from a mental standpoint. So just maybe for some younger athletes or athletes who are going through an injury season of their life, what advice would you give them to not let that time on the sideline be wasted?
Yeah, that was definitely a statement that you would always say to me, Annabelle, and something that I really caught on to is that you can't let, no matter if you're hurt or if you're just not playing, go to waste, because you never know, and you don't want that time for when your coach calls on you or you get cleared for you to be like, oh man, I wish I worked on my stick, or oh man, I wish I knew the offense, or oh man, I wish I knew how to read a defense, because your time's going to pass you. So just like putting money in the bank, you need to put money in the bank throughout the time. So then when you need to reach into your bank, when you need to be like, hey, I need to hopefully put bricks to build that house, it needs to be firm and it needs to be strong. So you're confident, and you are prepared. So I definitely think that just staying ready, I would always think of myself as a sponge. Our coaches have just amazing things to say and small little coaching tips here and there. They would be saying to one person, I would jog over. I couldn't even practice, didn't even have a stick. I would jog over, listen to what they'd say, and be like, okay, mental note, Or if I couldn't be in that huddle, I'd think to myself, what could they possibly be saying right now, like based on that play? So almost a little fun game that I had for myself. But yeah, definitely just not letting the time go to waste and being ready, because when your time does get called, if you're not hurt or if you are hurt, like, and you get cleared, you want to be ready to go.
I love that. Sharpening the mental tool is probably underrated, or you don't realize how much you have to focus on it until you have adversity, whether it's an injury, whether it's a tough season, or whether it's kind of those losing streaks that all of us try to avoid in life or on the field. Now, you also kind of touched on the fact, and I brought this up once already, BC being strong offensively as well as defensively, but what's probably something else special or strong about this team that maybe not only the ACC has to worry about, but women's lacrosse as a whole?
Yeah, I think we joke on our team after someone does a cool thing in practice, like, thank goodness you're on my team. And I think it doesn't matter if it's the star player that's doing the cool thing in the game or practice, or if it's a girl that's on scout team that just did a 360 spin move and you're like, where did that come from? Like, I think from top to bottom, this team is so skilled, and just the amount of heart that we have for the game, but not only for the game, but for one another. That's what kind of separates us, I think, from other competitors. We talk about how other teams can have a game plan. Other teams can even execute that game plan. But we want to say, by the end of the day, nobody can do it the way that we can do it here at Boston College, with the intensity and the work and the heart that we have for the love of the game. So I think in the goals that we have. So I just think that sets us apart, and something that I'm just so lucky to be a part of and pushes me every day.
That's awesome. And you have so many superstars truly on this team, from Shea Dolce in the back, Shea Baker defending her, Emma LaPinto, McKenna Davis, Rachel Clark. Like, we could go on. We could name the whole team. But who are maybe some names on this Boston College women's lacrosse team besides yours? Obviously, I would love to shout you out. You're an incredible athlete and player. But who are some names on this Boston College women's lacrosse team that might not be on the watch list and might not be, on the Instagram when you're scrolling and you're seeing the highlights, but are really making an impact on this team?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many behind the scenes girls that, like you said, don't get the credit that they deserve. But I think internally on our team, they do get the credit, and maybe not enough, but they do. And our team does a good job of shouting those people out, whether it's in the meeting after, like, hey, you were so good in practice that when I got to the game, that girl wasn't hard to guard because you were so good. So I think just a person like Elizabeth Kirk, she's my roommate, but I'm biased. But she's been grinding for 4 years, a strong midfielder, and just got, like, there's been some injuries this week, and she got called up to play in this last game and did amazing. Did her job, didn't let the time pass her, and when she was on the sideline, and just was totally prepared. Brooke McCoy, just a baller, attacker. The list goes on and on. Abby Harrod's our draw girl, and she's just been grinding the last couple years and really shining right now. So, yeah, I think everyone on our team is just so special, and it's true that it takes a village. It's not just one person or a couple people that win a game. It's everyone.
Sounds like y'all have that depth, which is so scary. So I have to know, I don't think I asked this beforehand. Which team coming up next or in the near future do you guys have circled on the calendar? Like, who do you have your eyes on that everybody needs to know? It's time to watch BC and who?
Oh, well, our next game is Tuesday versus Dartmouth. So we're one game at a time. So that's a big challenge for us. But,
that was a test. Yeah. Kasey was just testing you, and you passed. Acacia called her. She said, Kasey, I need you to ask Mallory this. That's good. Well, Mallory, just because that is the first home game that's outside this season, and it will be on Newton campus, not Alumni Stadium, where you guys will play the rest of your home games this year. What is special about Newton campus, and why should fans head to Newton campus to go watch you guys play this week?
Oh, my goodness. Newton campus is something that you'll never experience. It's the best place ever, aside from alumni. I'm biased, but it's the best. I mean, it's where our season in the fall started. It's where we had our first practice, and it's where you grow up. All these girls that we grew up watching, Sam Apuzzo, Dempsey Arsenal, Kenzie Kent playing there, and now to be able to put the uniform on and do the same thing, it's surreal, and it's an unforgettable experience, and it's going to be a fun game, and our team's looking to put on a show for all the fans that can come out. So be there, 3:30, cheering loud, maybe wear a hat, but it's going to be fun.
That's so good. And Mallory, do you have a favorite memory just from either being a fan at Newton campus? Because I know you would go during high school and, leave things early just to get to these lacrosse games at Newton campus during Boston College lacrosse season. Do you have a favorite memory as a fan or maybe as a player from being on that field?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had so many memories. You were there. Like, one of our first ever BC lacrosse camps was at Newton campus, and just a cool cool experience to be back there. You're what, 8th grade, and then now you get to suit up as a senior and play there. It's a lot of fun and definitely full circle moment. But I think just watching all the old BC alums who we all still look up to playing at Newton, and when we usually play tournament play at Newton campus, so getting the game in first to break it in, hopefully, we're all excited for.
Good. Well, break it in, and happy spring break. I know most of the students are off on their spring break, but you're at school just doing all lacrosse. So it's all good things you get to do just lacrosse. But Mallory, thank you so much for taking the time out of your crazy busy schedule and sharing just about your season, about the team. And we are so excited to cheer on the maroon, gold, and the neon. And as I was telling Kasey earlier about all the fun things with BC lacrosse. So thank you so much. We love you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having me. This was definitely a bucket list.
If you're enjoying the show, you can catch new episodes of Respect Her Game every Tuesday. You can watch on YouTube or Twitch and listen on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Well, we are 3 weeks away from March Madness, and Kasey and I, as always, are going to go through the AP Top Rankings 25 poll. Super excited. There's been a lot of shakeup throughout this entire season, really, so get ready for what is to come. And I bet you there will even be more shakeup after the end of this week with all the conference championships, but we will see. So here we go with number 1, Texas at the top. They are the reigning team right now. Number 2, USC, and really that defeat that they had on UCLA, I did not expect that. That was a beat down.
Yes, a big one. And then Watkins, I mean, just coming in hot with another 30. I felt so bad because Natalie filled in for you and we were chatting about it, and we were both kind of like, can she really put up another 30-point performance? Oh, absolutely. Especially to put USC ahead. So that's been fantastic to watch.
It is so impressive. And then UConn getting back up there to number 3, right? They have been kind of on the cusp of even just like 5 and 6 throughout this entire season. So it's great to see them up at number 3. Number 4, the UCLA Bruins. And they were really reigning for a couple weeks there in the beginning of the season. But now they're at number 4. And number 5, South Carolina is back in the top 5. I bet you that's definitely like a for them, for sure.
Big time. I mean, I feel like this is what they've been working for, and they didn't try to rush the process. They continued to build their game to find themselves at a number 5 spot.
And what I liked about how South Carolina handled this as well has just been like, yeah, we've never been here before. It's uncharted territory, right? Like, we haven't lost. I forget who one of their first, maybe it was to UCLA earlier in the season. It was like the first time they had been beaten in a long time. And I remember Dawn Staley just saying like, yeah, well, we don't really know how to handle this because we haven't really lost before. And I thought it was so genuine, and I actually appreciated it. I think some people might have seen it as like cocky in a sense, oh, well, we don't know how to lose, but it's like, no, like you just don't know how to lose. So you have to figure out, what does the day after a game look like? What does the bus ride look like? Like, how do I handle this with my players right now, right? And so I just think that's so interesting, but they're at number 5. And then on the cusp of the top 5 is number 6, Notre Dame, who really did not hold on to the lead very long at the top at number 1, but you know that they're going to take this ACC tournament and use that as their redemption.
Absolutely. I mean, I know we talk about the SEC being so competitive, but there's a number of people that are like, well, you got to see what's going on in the ACC. I mean, the movement, the dance is almost just as competitive over on that side to see who's going to make it out on top. So Notre Dame, we wouldn't count them out being on the cusp, but to drop 3 spots is definitely ouchy at this position and timing, because March is here and the madness is close to beginning.
Definitely. And they lost in double overtime to NC State. And I remember previewing that game with you. And I had a very like, oh, they're good. Like, they're going to, take care of NC State. But no, it was a tight game. NC State really battled all the way. And they did lose to not just NC State, but they also lost to another team. So they're coming off two losses, right? And so you head into this ACC tournament. I think that does really fuel you.
Yes.
To be like, okay, this, we hit a high, now we hit kind of a low, and so they're still in that top group for the seedings. But yeah, that's definitely has to, motivate you and get you really like, kind of gives you a shock of reality.
Big time, because as you mentioned, falling to NC State, which we did preview, they're clipping at the heels. They're sitting at number 7 in the AP polls now, and they can make it really easy to leap over Notre Dame if Notre Dame doesn't come in strong with their game and their play. So now the push for consistency is bigger than ever, and that makes it scary when it comes to the competition.
Well, if you're enjoying the show, you can catch new episodes of Respect Her Game every Tuesday. You can watch on YouTube or Twitch and listen on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Well, Texas A&M has a huge game ahead of them in the nationally ranked number 11 Tennessee on Wednesday for the first round of the SEC tournament. And this is going to be a very competitive tournament. And just to go back to how the number 1 seed got named, it was through a coin toss, right? Which is so funny from the commissioner. And I think, you think, oh man, it's a coin toss, but there's coin tosses in a lot of sports. This is a very normal thing. And, you can definitely expect the South Carolina locker room to be blowing up after that, and Texas to have a little bit of like, oh man, like it is what it is. But I know Texas's attitude towards that was, you know what, we've already played every team, we already know what to expect, so we're gonna get by it. But funny that number 1 was considered by a coin flip. But the other teams who are playing in this first round do have a big challenge ahead, especially Texas A&M going up against Tennessee. So when you look at this game, what initially jumps out to you?
Oh my gosh. I love that question because I think the first thing anyone looks at is the fact that these two teams just recently played each other, top of the year, January 2nd. Tennessee took the cake on this one, 91-78. And when you look at a score like that, you're like, well, how do you bounce back? And how do you make a statement? Because that's what Texas A&M has to do. Well, let's find some positives for Texas A&M. They don't give enough credit for how they actually do well limiting their opponent's shots. And you're like, Kasey, are you nuts? You just said 91 points went up to Tennessee. I'm getting there. They've got a very insane number of offensive weapons when it comes to Tennessee, but they can pull on that a little bit more, limiting their opponent's shots and kind of commanding more of like their play at certain points. When you kind of look back over the season, you've seen Texas A&M kind of have these stronger points of play in the first quarter and in the fourth quarter, and they have the capability of having these fourth quarter pushes. So heading into this matchup, I'm thinking that they're thinking, okay, we can't show up in the second half of this matchup. We have to find a way to push Tennessee, make them uncomfortable in the first quarter, because the first quarter is Tennessee's sweet spot. That's where they make a statement. That's where they really come off offensively. They're better and well-rounded in the sense of being offensively strong and defensively sound, and they have a lot of depth on their team. That's what their reputation is. That's what they're known for. So Texas A&M has a chance to make it more interesting, but Tennessee is definitely the more well-rounded team heading into this matchup, looking to stack again versus Texas A&M.
Definitely. And it's hard when you're 0-9 on the road, and now when you get into the postseason, you don't have the luxury of having home games. You don't have the luxury of being in your own training room before the game and going to your own locker room and doing, the dances like Mallory was on earlier talking about. You don't have that luxury. So Texas A&M is they don't have a choice. They have to find a way to win on the road if they want to stay alive in this tournament. But what really impressed me is that this team, having lost that many games in a row, it can probably take a toll not only on just like the physical, what goes on the court, but also just like the camaraderie and what goes on in the locker room. And I loved what Sahara Jones said, after their last loss. She was like, this isn't, you might think that there's drama going on and we're losing a lot, but really that's not the case. She said, We're all best friends. We love each other. We're going to play to the end. We're going to play to the buzzer. And I loved hearing that from her, because what that shows is not only that it's going well for them within the locker room from a friendship side, but also that this team cannot be counted out. When you have a group of girls who love each other, who care about the outcome of the game as much as like what they're putting into it, that's really scary. And so that's when a team like Tennessee could get knocked off when they are also coming off their own losses as well. So we'll see. I think, like you said, if Texas can find a way to come out hot, Texas A&M can find a way to come out hot and show that, hey, you might overlook us, and really shock them with the first punch.
Yeah. And plus, I think it's a great approach too, because, and again, this very well as a collegiate athlete, when you start watching game tape, you're looking for your opponent's weaknesses. So heading into this, Tennessee's going to look at Texas A&M and say, all right, they really don't collectively find their game as a unit until that third quarter or that fourth quarter, and we're hot coming out in the first quarter. So what an advantage we have. And if Texas A&M can push the pace in that first quarter and not lose their game, kind of try to force Tennessee out of their comfort zone. I mean, something else Texas A&M does pretty well, inconsistently, but well, is they can kind of create sloppy shots and sloppy shooting lanes. They can kind of change the characteristic of their opponent, and that's what they have to do early on in this matchup. But I love that you mentioned the conversation probably taking place in the locker room for Texas A&M, because it speaks to their ability to stay in games or to have that punch in the fourth quarter, but more importantly, how they just kind of can rally together. And that means that you can talk to your teammate from a very honest perspective and say, okay, we can't sit on our heels until the second half. We've got to have that power and that gusto in the first half, and you can have an honest conversation and bring the best out of each other. So it's not out of reach Like I said, Tennessee
it's
very
a long
strong.
shot.
Exactly.
But it's not impossible. So you're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying there's a chance.
That's what I was looking for. That's good. Well, and even just the outside factor too is neither team is going to overlook each other. But who do they play next? Who does the winner play next? Vanderbilt,
right?
Who is Tennessee's rival and who is also a team that Texas A&M really wants to get back this game. And so you can just imagine that if Tennessee has their eyes set on the next game and isn't focused on Texas A&M and maybe we can roll over them, I can just imagine how that might, play a factor into the game plan and the focus of what is to come.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It just kind of reminds me of what your sister just mentioned. Like, it's one game at a time, right? So even though the rivalry is there, you can imagine that Tennessee might be getting ahead of themselves a little bit because they could underestimate what Texas A&M brings into the matchup. So the biggest thing for Texas A&M as well is like keeping a pace on Jewel Spear. I mean, she's somebody who sits north of 25 points, makes it look pretty easy, but then you also got Samara Spencer who comes in very heavily and helping defensively for this Tennessee team. So it's just pushing their comfort zone, and that can make things interesting. And that's why March Madness and these tournaments, they're so interesting because you really can't favorably lean in one direction or another because almost anything can happen sometimes.
And Spear is one of 7 seniors on Tennessee's team, which is, when you think about a basketball roster, that's like a lot of the team, right? 7, and for 7 of them to be seniors, like
a lot
you
of
go into
experience.
postseason, and that's some of their end. Like each game could be the end of your career, right? And so there's just a different level of emotion, a different level of younger girls playing for your seniors when you hit this point, especially for it to be one of your top scorers, right? The girl who is really carrying the team on your back. And so I'm excited really for both of these teams, for their leaders to be those seniors, those grad students, and to see, hey, what is it going to take to get over the hump, not overlook the next opponent, and do the job.
Yeah, well, Tennessee's got that depth. They're a very high-tempo team also. And then who's not playing their heart out for Kim Cadell right now? I mean, I think everyone on that roster is probably just in awe of their head coach. So I think that that's probably something else that's going to give Tennessee a little gusto in this matchup.
I'm excited. Well, Tennessee, I just loved seeing Kim and having, her come back with her child and all those things and how exciting that was. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I just love rooting for Tennessee just with that and that camaraderie and what she's really brought to this team. But so excited to just get into March Madness. I can't wait to make the brackets and all the things. And when do you usually start your bracket, search?
Oh my gosh, I think probably like week 2. I got to see how the first week of March paints out, and then I start going nuts with the brackets. We're going to do some bracketology here on Respect Your Game.
Good. Well, I'm excited, and we'll have to keep you updated with the new polls after all these conference championships. But thank you so much for tuning in to Respect Your Game. What a fun episode. Kasey, it is always a joy. This is Respect Your Game. Catch us every Tuesday.